This is your boy Neebs, aka Watch with Neebs, and Jazz is unfortunately still out. So, for those of you that don't know, Jazz had a pet that passed away, so he's a little bummed out. So, feel free to send him some love, give him send him some good vibes. Jazz is a huge animal lover, so it's been really rough on him. But he is standing strong. He might even join us in the comments, so we'll see. But hopefully, Jazz will be back at least next week when we'll be back and we'll be doing the next Ahsoka episode, and we'll probably do Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Who knows what else we'll be doing? But I do want to introduce you guys to some of our guests. So this person you guys definitely know. He's been on a couple of episodes. Been on Ahsoka, She-Hulk, The Last of Us. It's our boy Ruzzy. How are you?
Hey y'all, you just found some brown guy in DC, and I am here. Join the show. Glad to be
That's
back.
right. That's right. Well, welcome, man. Welcome. It's nice to have you. And this is going to be a really fun episode. And you brought a friend with you this time. Adome,
I
how are you
did.
doing?
What's going on, Needs? Glad to be here. Jazz, hope you're doing all right. I know what it's like to lose a pet. Glad to be here. And I hadn't been here since we talked about Secret Invasion. I think that was episode 2 or 3, and it nosedived after that. So glad to bring the vibes back.
Well, Ahsoka better not nosedive after you've been on here.
No, I hope not. I hope not. If I am, I'm in trouble. Yeah.
It's like you're the reason.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show, man. We definitely appreciate your knowledge and all the stuff that you brought to the last episode. So it's going to be fun to have you back, man. This is going to be a fun episode.
Thanks, man. Glad to be here.
All right. And next, I want to introduce you guys to somebody new. He hasn't been on our show yet. I had met him at Comic-Con. His name is Kareem. He does amazing cosplays. He is definitely somebody that you should follow. He does tons of cosplays. He does panels all over Comic-Con. Kareem, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, Neebs. I'm so happy to be here, man. It's amazing meeting you at conventions. I cosplay. I'm from Toronto, live from Canada. What up, everybody?
Yeah. Are you our first Canadian? I don't know if we've had Canadians on our show before. You might be our first. Hey. And I love the Ahsoka costume that you're wearing, the little Ahsoka gear.
Thanks, man.
We're vibing. All right, man. We're gonna get into this episode because this was a fun one. We got to see a lot of cool things and a lot of cool references. So I'm super excited to go into this episode. But before we start, is there anything else you guys want to share? Your thoughts about the episode, or like in general, not this episode, but how it's going so far? You've watched 3 episodes so far. What's the vibe? For me, I feel like it's going in a good direction. I feel like it's still a little too early to tell. There's a lot of things in here that make me really happy. They are using the whole nostalgia angle to make me happy. So I can't complain. But I hope they don't rely on it too much and give us a good story too. Kareem, since you're new, what are your thoughts of the show overall?
All right, well, I gotta say, this is one of the Star Wars characters that I adore the most. This is the show I've been looking forward to the most. Nothing against Mandalorian or Andor. Andor was something special. I think we can always do that. Andor blew me away. I didn't know what to expect. But, after what Tony Gilroy did with Rogue One, something special. So that kind of, I'm not expecting anything to touch what Andor did. However, like, Ahsoka is such a great character. Haven't always loved her, but really came around at the end of Clone Wars. Clone Wars Season 7. But seeing what's it called, Order 66, the execution scenes from Ahsoka's point of view was amazing. The live action fighting, and then seeing her arc in Rebels, like, I've just been enjoying Ahsoka's arc as coming back as like Gandalf the White, Gandalf the Gray. Like, Dave Filoni is doing great. Ahsoka is something that he created while being an apprentice to George Lucas. So Dave Filoni is the heir to this empire. He's the heir apparent. He's one of the supreme storytellers. You see what I did there? and this episode is called Time to Fly. And this is where it picks up. Sabine's, out of the hospital room. She's ready. She's got her Padawan attitude in check. And I'm excited. It's 8 episodes. So we're almost halfway there.
Yeah.
And I like how it's just one story arc. It's just, I mean, there's exposure on the side
Right.
of the Republic, but this is just, let's go get Thrawn. Let's find out what's going on. So I really, really like it.
Yeah, yeah. I love that you threw out that like you didn't always like her, and that's a sign of a great character. Someone you didn't always like, and then you come around to them. That's how you make a great character. There's a lot of people that are like that. I know The Walking Dead does that quite a bit, where I hate somebody, and then by the end of it, I'm like, no, don't die. So those are signs of great characters. Adome, what are your thoughts of the series so far? We're 3 episodes in, almost halfway. What are your thoughts overall?
So let me start by saying I'm dubbing this Rebel Season 5 because I don't understand how you
Yeah.
can enjoy this or even understand it without having seen Rebels. And I mean, Rebels is what, like 2017, I think, when that came out. And so I'm
Yeah.
loving this. I mean, everything from getting all the characters in live action, Lothal being featured. I mean, I'm really excited to see Thrawn. I'm thrilled they got the same guy who did the voice to do the live action. So I'm just hyped for more of it. And I'll give a small plug. So when Ahsoka was billed, I started listening to all the Thrawn books. So I went through all the Heir of the Empire trilogy. I did the 3 Thrawn books from 2017. And today I started the second one of the Chaos Ascendancy books. Thrawn is like my favorite Star Wars characters ever. And I'm so hyped to see him in live action because it's just amazing what they've done with him so far. And with the title character of this show, I mean, you couldn't have casted it any more perfectly with Rosario Dawson. She's awesome as Ahsoka.
Yeah.
I'm just so glad that it's someone who looks like me on screen playing her. It's just amazing.
It's super cool, man. I really, really love that. Ruzzy, what about you?
See, this is why Adome was my +1. I agree with everything that both Kareem and Adome and you've said it so far. I think in order to really like appreciate the show, and I think really truly appreciate it, you have to have seen Rebels, you have to have seen Clone Wars. It sets the foundation that you just have this love for the characters even more than if you see them just out the gate for the very first time. I've been talking to some of my friends who have never watched Clone Wars or Rebels, and they are having a different experience, and it is interesting to kind of watch that. I think overall is an action-packed episode, but is different action than we've seen thus far, and I liked it. There are some cool scenes. I can't wait to dive into that.
Nice, nice. I love to hear it. I also want to give a shout out to a few people in the comments. We got Michael in the comments. Michael, we got to have you on the episode soon. And Carlos, who we had on the episode just a few days ago when we did Blue Beetle. So they're in the comments. Shout out to them. All right, let's get into it. So the episode starts off with Sabine training, and she's training with Hu Young. She's using some of these kind of these like paddleboard things where I thought they were just things that you train with, but apparently they were tracking accuracy and stuff like that, which I thought was pretty cool. And then Hu Young got no chill. He's like, you're still pretty terrible. He's got no chill. Homie does not have a sensitivity chip. And it's so funny because David Tennant is doing the voice, and for me, I always just imagine David Tennant saying that stuff. It's just hilarious. But then Ahsoka tries to say, hey, why don't you put on this mask? Which I thought was interesting. And then she is blindfolded, and they make her fight blindfolded, which is something we've seen in the past. We've seen the younglings do it in Attack of the Clone right before they were and we also see Luke do it, right? Blindfolded. So it's a common Star Wars trope, and we got to see her do it. I thought it was really, really cool, and they brought that back. What were your thoughts of the whole training sequence with Ahsoka? So Kareem, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. My favorite part was when Ahsoka said Zatoichi style, and Zatoichi being the blind swordsman.
Yeah.
So George Lucas takes so much imagery from Akira Kurosawa's films. And Dave Filoni continued that by introducing Ahsoka in The Mandalorian, with the same type of smoky, mystic imagery. She comes out of the shadows with so much samurai imagery, and then they made that Zatoichi. That's so on the nose. So,
if you watch The Seventh Samurai and stuff like that, there's a lot of influences from that movie in here.
Yeah, Hidden Fortress. So Dave Filoni is continuing that trend of not making Star Wars, but mimicking the ways George Lucas made Star Wars.
Right.
And Adome, just to go off something you said, you called this Rebel Season 6. I'm gonna just say feels like Rebel Season 7, because there's something that happened between Ahsoka and Sabine. They didn't interact much at the end of Rebels, but this is like their training part 2. It seems like they had a long history of training together and split and failed.
Yeah.
I don't know who left who or what happened. Sabine's got that Mandalorian stubbornness.
Yeah.
And Ahsoka herself, like, she walks away from things all the time, which is one of the things I really like about her. So it showed a lot of the emotional depth that they went without explaining much. Was like show don't tell.
Yeah.
So I really like the way they had slow movements. Ahsoka is so relaxed and just conveys a lot of story with very little dialogue.
Yeah, totally agree. It was nice to see Ahsoka and Sabine kind of reacting to it. Like, there's got to be some flashback because there's so much missing imagery here that like we don't know about. Adom, what were your thoughts about the training sequence?
So, as we mentioned before, we've seen this blindfolded where it's, Master and Padawan. First we got Obi-Wan and Luke, and then we had the Padawans on Coruscant, like you talked about. But to me, this session was very different because it's essentially, I don't consider Ahsoka a failed Jedi at all, but she's definitely probably the most different Jedi character that we've seen, almost to the point where you might even call her a Jedi in some ways, just kind of how she carries herself. And the fact that she is training somebody who we kind of don't know if Sabine actually can use the Force in any way yet. They've hinted at it. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but they kind of confirm what happens at the end of The Last Jedi when the kids are using the Force, and it's like anybody can do it. But with Sabine, it's interesting because, she clearly is trying to be like this version, or like the new version of Ezra, and it's going very differently for her than how Kanan trained Ezra. So I'm interested to see, how she takes it going forward, because she got her ass kicked in the first 2 episodes and she was healing up, and now it's kind of like, all right, you got to be able to defend yourself. But to me, a Jedi's best powers are using the Force, and if she can't do that, hand-to-hand combat only goes so far.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know what Ahsoka's going to do with that. I think this is really a different version of Ahsoka because she's definitely at peace with where she is, even though she's still like on a mission to find Thrawn. So I'm interested to see how much actual knowledge she tries to pass to Sabine versus just like, hey, here's how you defend yourself, which is basically what Anakin did with her before the end of the Clone Wars.
Yeah. This may be a hot take, but like, I don't really care about Sabine getting the Force. I feel like she's such a great character even without it. Like, she's 5 seasons of Rebel, she never had the Force. She was still a badass, did all this stuff. She didn't need the Force. Her getting the Force, I can take it or leave it. It's not a big deal to me. I feel like even if she becomes like one of those people that like gets a very low version of the Force, like maybe like the guy from Rogue One, like he didn't really use the Force, but he used the Force, right? The blind guy who would do all this martial arts stuff, right? He never like made anything float in the air, but he still used the Force. I would not mind if Sabine used the Force in that capacity. So I love seeing her training and stuff like that, but I think I love that more than the actual her using the Force. Rosie, what are your thoughts about the training?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, I was waiting for her to drop the line, I am one with the Force and the Force is with me.
Yeah.
Didn't come, but clearly the Force was not with her, or the cup of chai that she had. But I think I mean, maybe if the cup was actually filled with chai, then I feel like there'd be more incentive.
Oh yeah, you know what? If do or do not, there is no chai.
There's no chai.
Oh, you hold that one in the chamber for a minute, huh? Yeah.
No, it just came to me, man. I had to use it.
Trademark. Make a T-shirt.
I'm gonna make that a T-shirt. Do or do not, there is no chai.
Brew or brew not, there is no chai.
That's a good one. That's
good.
That's pretty good. I like that. Yeah.
Salaam Nerd T-shirts coming soon.
There we go. I will get one. We'll all get one. Just make them all chai flavored. So I think when she was like, I can't wield the Force, I don't feel it. And then she just, they talked about just how she's tapping into, she's just so used to her Mandalorian training. I mean, like, they haven't really touched upon it, but like her Darksaber training, I mean, she literally like was going through the motions with Ezra, in Rebels, but we haven't really seen that here. And the other thing I noted that in the last show, but the other thing I didn't mention is that she was a demolitions expert, for the team. And so, I mean, like, you're like, she had a different like fighting style. Even when she was like using like she was practicing without, I think with or without the dark saber, but essentially preparing for the dark saber. One of the other Mandos gave her some like Mandalorian tricks and like
Mhm.
gadgets and gizmos, and she tried to use those against Ezra, and Ezra and Kanan both put her in her place, right? So I
Yeah.
think, uh, well, she's like she has to like basically remove all these crutches that she had as a Mandalorian, and then essentially,
Yeah.
like Yang said, start anew.
Oh yeah, totally, totally. I want to go into some of the comments real quick because some of these comments are pretty solid. All right. Oh, Jazz is in the comments. Shout out to Jazz. Shout out to him. Um, Michael here is saying that I think you can enjoy this even if you haven't seen Rebels. You just have to be a little bit more patient. I can see that. I could see people. I feel like you will miss out a little bit, but I don't think you're going to not enjoy it. So I think that's fair. All right, fair. Let's see. Carlos in here. He said, yeah, I don't think the series is going to end up being for me. Oh, I didn't watch Rebels and it's feeling more and more like a necessary requirement. All right. So we got two, some people think it is a requirement. It's like homework. You got to do homework to watch this. So yeah. We'll see. This is a funny comment. I love this podcast because it's the perfect evolution of beard growth. So I guess like it's like a dome, Razi, me, and that's hilarious.
I got the Muchi going tonight too.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, cool. All right, cool. All right. So now we get into Hera, dude. Every time I see Hera, like so good. Like she looks so good in live action. I never thought that it would look that great. Um, and I went and saw like the actress that they played her. She's gorgeous. Like you could just tell, even with the face paint and all that stuff on, she's so good looking. I was really excited to see her talk to all of these council people, including Moff Mafta. We got to see her from Andor, which I thought was really, really cool. And then they even mentioned Jason, her son, which I thought was cool. And she was like, yeah, she's out there playing. He's out there playing with the chopper. And like, yeah, he's just playing with, our favorite war criminal, which we always call Chopper. He's just the badass. I don't know if he's the best person to kind of babysit Jason. And then she tells him about Thrawn, and they don't believe her, and she gives this whole speech, and she calls out one guy, and she's like, "So, did you actually see any action? Did you actually see any war?" And he's like, "No." So she kind of shut him up, and I thought that was really, really cool. I don't know. I thought it was a really cool moment that we get to see everybody. We get to see the tensions. Some of these people are going to be bad guys. Some of these people are not. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Let's go in reverse order. Rezi, what about you?
So the government official in me, and I'm not speaking on behalf of the government, made me think of, oh, this is a briefing, right? This is a briefing before the senators, right? You have to try to get more resources, essentially an appropriations period.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think, the senator, one of the senators said, you're just using this as an excuse to acquire additional resources to find Ezra. But as you mentioned, I mean, she put him in his place, and I got up from my seat and said, "You tell him,
yes,
Mama Hera." She's both General and Mama Hera.
That's right.
But I think it was also just her saying that she's spent a lifetime fighting war, and she wants to stop another one from happening, and that's kind of like the theme that's been dropping in a couple of these episodes. And I'm like, oh, like, are we going to see like how the resistant, the first order came about? We'll see. I mean, it's going to be very interesting.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah, that is interesting. I also like the part where she talks about how all these people on the Empire were kind of helping them in Corellius, and she's like, no, 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 those are outliers. That's not really what would happen. Dome, what were your thoughts about her speech and how they were kind of just trying to gaslight her into thinking, no, it's not that bad. Don't worry about it. You're not here to find Thrawn. You just want to find Ezra.
Yeah, I was actually a little taken aback when they introduced Mon Mothma as the Chancellor. Wasn't really expecting that.
Yeah,
Like,
she got a promotion.
I was like, shit, she's in charge. Like, she's in the seat now. Yeah. I don't know. I think that with the fact that Hera has seen a lot of action. I mean, I was watching it with my wife, and she hasn't seen Rebels, and she was like, "Why is Hera acting like this?" I was like, "Hera was an Endor." And then my wife was like, "Oh,
yeah.
okay, I get it. Yeah, that's a line to it." But I think this is really showing, to Razi's point, how government and bureaucracy just gets in the way, and how it allowed Palpatine to just take everything from where it was, and it's just kind of being continued right after the war is over. So, I mean, it's pretty par for the course at this point. I'm not totally surprised with how this is going. So, and as a side note, I really like what you said about how Hera looks awesome in live action. I didn't know this, but the actress playing Hera is actually Ewan McGregor's wife. I did not know that before.
Wow.
That's it's like keep it in the family for real.
Yeah.
So no, but she looks great, and I'm hoping that they give Jason some more screen time, because I was surprised to see him. And by the way, Chopper is nowhere near qualified to babysit anybody.
No.
Danger.
Damn. If that's Ewan McGregor's wife, then I would say Obi-Wan.
There you go.
We're gonna get shut down with my corny jokes. All right, Kareem, why don't you save us before I shut us down?
I mean, I got one more cheesy joke. So why don't Jedis have successful marriages?
Why?
Oh, I know. I can tell you that. Yeah.
I apologize in advance, because they use divorce.
You're
still gonna keep me on the show? Can I stay?
Wah, wah. I love it. All right.
Anyways.
No, but what are your thoughts about Hera's speech?
Yeah, man. So that briefing, that kind of political stuff is right out of the novels. Early Empire novels, they just show how useless and squabbling these senators are. And it's verbatim, oh, you just want resources. They really are fighting over resources, a lot like some of the Imperial Moffs were.
Yeah.
That they would end up with all this infighting. So I liked that exposure. It was really short, but very powerful. And that one's, squabbly senator, his name is Hamada Ziono.
Yeah.
Hamada Ziono, he's actually the father of Kaz Ziono, who's a character from Star Wars Resistance.
Yep.
And Kaz, being the rebel he was, didn't get along with his father and, ran away from home, basically. So it was pretty cool to see how much of a, I don't know, tool or jerk or useless kind of guy he is. Like, he sounds like he's part of the Empire. Like, that's the kind of complacency that leads to, apathy or an apathetic corruption. Like, the way that the Republic is just hiring ex-Imperials, but here, just put this badge on now. Like,
yeah. I mean, say what you want about the Empire. At least they weren't as bad when it comes to bureaucracy and stuff. They got shit done. Awful shit, but they got it done.
Slavery. But it was really nice to see Jason. I was worried that we're gonna shy away from that.
Yeah.
And his dad was Kanan Jarrus. Like, he might have some powers of the Force. Like, he might want to tell Sabine, like, well, I got the Force, give me a lightsaber.
He said he wanted to be a Jedi, and also, is it just me, or did Jason have a little bit of melanin in him? I was like, I don't know. He's played by the kid who played young Elliot in Mr. Robot, and I think he is half Mexican. So, yeah, he got a little bit of melanin in him.
Everyone on Rebels, like Kanan, Ezra, Sabine, they all looked melanated. They all looked a little dark.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Back to the comments. I think this is a weird comment. Someone said, hold on, I have reached my limit of people I can follow on Twitch, so I have to delete someone so I can follow you guys. And they're like, I deleted a girl doing squats for $1 to follow you. You better be worth it. I hope we're worth it too. Squats for $1. Oh man, we got Sheriff Majood on here. Sheriff, what's up? I know him. He said, "I'd like to hear Ruddy's thoughts if Ahsoka is just a kids' cartoon turned live action." Ooh, Ruddy, what are your thoughts? A question directed directly at you.
Yeah. Thanks, Sharp. I appreciate you tuning in to today's show and being a avid supporter.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
And I'll let Neebs read that one. But
the other one is, could Ruddy try being could Ruddy be even more better looking? That would be great.
yeah, not as good looking as Sharp. No, it's not a kids cartoon turned live action, and I think even the original show is also pretty mature for the writing and the storytelling that the initial both the Rebels as well as Clone Wars was set out, and then Ahsoka I think is really on its own, right? I think there are some folks that are feeling alienated that, oh, I have to do some homework. No, I mean I think you should just dive into this and just enjoy. If you want to dig deeper into things, you could, right? Like there are several movies that even Oppenheimer, right? I'm going to look at Wikipedia as I watch this movie, which is exactly what my wife did. But like you could look more into the lore and get an appreciation that fandom and nerddom is all about, right? I mean, you have like a little story and you get to experience it and enjoy it. But if you want to dig deeper, you can dig deeper. If you don't want to, you don't
Yep.
have to, and no one will judge you, except maybe a
Yeah.
small few.
I mean, it's the Star Wars fandom. People, who cares what they think? Because no one agrees on anything. There's half the people love something, the other half hate it. So it is what it is. All right. So Sabine is trying to be one with the Force. She's trying to, get this cup to come to her. She doesn't really feel it, is what they're saying. But they do say everyone has the Force in them, which is something Kanan also said to her when she was training with the Darksaber. But she's just. I love that when Hugh Young and Ahsoka are talking about it, he's so savage with it. She just wouldn't be acceptable at the candidate. But they did say that Ahsoka does come from a long line of unorthodox Padawans. So what difference does it make if Sabine is one? So that's pretty interesting too. So I did like that. All right. So let's see what else happened. I think what happens next is the ships are attacked, and Ahsoka and Sabine get into ready mode, and they start shooting. And Sabine is not doing too great. Now I don't know, because like from Rebels, did she ever like shoot at people? I thought she was a bit better. I don't know why they made her look like she was just terrible at it. Is it just she's out of practice, or was she never a gunner when Rebels was on? Because I feel like she must have done it once or twice. I feel like everyone's gotten their chance at shooting at stuff.
Yeah.
Rezi, you've watched it recently. Do you remember?
She was more of a pilot than a gunner. All the
Okay.
other, yeah. So I mean, Hera and Sabine would take turns, piloting the ship, and then the boys essentially would go and be the gunners. Zeb, Ezra, and Kanan.
Yeah. Okay. Adom, what were your thoughts about the whole dogfight?
I thought it was interesting how at the beginning Ahsoka was trying to like coach her through like being back in the gunner seat, and then at one point Ahsoka was just kind of like, "All right, fine, just tell me what you need, and I'll just." And then she totally ceded to her. It's like, "All right, bank right, bank left, turn, spin." Like she was totally just letting Sabine just essentially drive and shoot at the same time, which I thought was interesting. And they did a lot better when that was happening. So I think there's more of getting Sabine kind of back into the role of what it actually means to be a rebel again, because she clearly has just been sitting around on Lothal, literally just loathing along and not really doing much. So I don't know. I think it's good for Sabine to get back out there.
Loathing on Lothal. Got it.
Yep.
Back down.
Playing in the corny jokes. Yeah.
Kareem, what were your thoughts of the dogfight?
Yeah, it was really nice to see them team up the way Ahsoka found that synergy. And I think she mentioned to Hu Yang, like, oh, she's just a little rusty.
Yeah,
And
yeah, she did say
it
that.
reminded me of a line from The Dark Knight Rises when Bane is making fun of Batman, and he's like, "Victory has defeated you,"
Yes.
and meaning how the whole Republic has
Great
gotten
callback.
lazy. Peace has made them weak, where they're not fighting, they're
Yes.
not urgent. There is no sense of urgency. And Sabine kind of said, like, "Oh, I was hoping the urgency would bring it out." That means she has not been practicing, like, without that sense of urgency, without constantly being tested. She's got sloppy. She didn't keep up with the training. Maybe even psychologically, she's like identified with this rebellion for so long, and then her best friend, Kanan dies. One Ezra disappears. There's some sort of uneasy peace on Lothal. So her identity, who knows where she's at emotionally? She's seemingly alone. And let's throw
Yeah.
PTSD out there. Like, it can't be easy when you lose
Sure.
your support group and like living in war. So she's literally shaking off the dust. And yeah, it's going to be a non-traditional path, which is really cool. Like, Ahsoka doesn't do anything traditionally. Awesome. Neither did her master Anakin or his master Obi-Wan and
Sure.
Count Dooku. So I like not knowing what's next, and I'm kind of with you, Neebs. Is I don't need her to have the Force. I think that this pursuit of the mystery of it all is
Right.
enough. Just entertained, and she hasn't had the Force, and she's been a phenomenal fighter. So let's just keep it that way, and let's just see what the pursuit of the Force brings out within her. Like, to find more mental peace, like doing the mindfulness, the meditation.
Yeah.
That's extremely beneficial for all of us, even in real life, and just to be more sensitive, sight, sound, to yourself, to the surroundings.
Definitely great point. Great point. So we do see them shoot down a few of the people, but then there is Marak and Shin, who are still after them. Then they get near the actual what is it? The Eye of Zion,
Eye of
and
Zion.
they start shooting
Scion.
Zion.
some turbo lasers at them. I guess Zion. Yeah, yeah. They start shooting some turbo lasers at them, and they're hit, and you can see them slowly just diving into space. Um, and then Ahsoka has to come out in her jumpsuit and looking fresh to death, and then she starts slicing these planes up outside of the plane. Total badass move. I don't know how gravity works or how inertia works in space in the Star Wars legend. Maybe her suit had some kind of like little air pressurized thing or magnetic shoes. I don't know. I don't care. Looks cool as hell. What were your thoughts about that scene? Kareem, why don't you go? We'll go backwards.
Yeah, magnets. They have boots in one episode of Rebels where they say like magnetize. Even when they drop bombs in The Last Jedi,
Yeah.
like drop bombs in space. Like, where would the bombs go without gravity? But there is one little quick thing where they just
That's
randomly
right.
go, magnetize. So to answer the question of what is gravity in space,
Yeah.
and like when she jumps off the ship, she has this nice arc. Let's just suspend our disbelief. But that scene of her swinging the saber in space
Yeah.
was amazing, man. Like, that was seeing Leia fly through space
Yeah.
in Last Jedi. I liked it. I personally didn't mind. It was really majestic, just because it's
Yep.
scary. Rest in peace. A lot harder
Mhm.
to believe that. Like, she was
R.I.P.
freezing and dying. So Ahsoka had her suit, a suit that she's obviously had custom made for her headpiece, her head tails, montrails. So, and like, when you block a blaster bolt from a gun, it's easy. But when it's a blaster bolt from a ship, like, that's got to be some next level like resistance on your arms. So I think Ahsoka is really, really powerful, and this show is demonstrating her supreme powers, like, subtly, because like when she quote unquote died in Clone Wars in the Mortis arc, her spirit was sort of imbued and revived by the daughter, which is like a really big deal. So this example of Ahsoka fighting in space, blocking turbo lasers, is a big deal. Like, she's very powerful, and I think that we're gonna keep seeing her powers increase because she's either holding back or just not even aware of how powerful she is. But the show is getting us there because that was a big deal.
Yeah. No, that was really cool. Adome, what are your thoughts?
that was a great callback to some of the stuff she had done in the Clone Wars, hanging out with Anakin and also being by herself. And I was really, I was a little taken aback by, when Shin and Marok are out there, trying to shoot at her, and they're taking these sweeping passes, and I was like, why don't you have folks just slow down a little bit, and you wouldn't have to worry about going so fast. You'd maybe be able to, but it's plot armor for Ahsoka, so I totally get it. I was expecting a little more from Shin because she's kind of like this badass dark side Padawan who's trying to prove herself, and she'd clearly taken a dig at Morgan, like, oh, congratulations, you missed, like, I'll finish it, but she didn't actually finish it after that, and so I was a little disappointed with her. And I have so many theories about who Marok is and what his background is, but they were just kind of hanging out there waiting for essentially Sabine to fix the ship. And so I think this is another example of her kind of getting back in the swing of things, fixing the ship under pressure, essentially by herself. So, it wasn't just about Ahsoka being outside. It's also about Sabine, because Ahsoka was buying her time. That's why she went out there like, hey, I'm going to buy you some time. And she went and did that. And then he's like, okay, are you finished yet? Like, put my ass back inside. Let's get out of here. I thought that was good for Sabine. So, I thought it was good. And I really love the fact that the Eye of Sion is a callback to the Darth Sion, the character from, I think he was in Knights of the Old Republic 2. I think that was a really nice callback to that character. So I just hope we get to see Thrawn soon, because I'm scratching my neck. I'm fiending for it.
Finale.
You think so?
I feel like he's coming.
I think they're going to
definitely feel like he's coming soon.
The movie, because Dave Filoni's doing a movie.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I think that'll be the big show.
Really? Because the thing is, I think we've run out of scenes from the trailers. So every scene
There's like
after
two
next
more.
episode
There's like two
is
more.
going to be stuff we haven't seen yet. Yeah.
Please be some flashbacks
So,
of the Clone Wars.
I don't know.
That needs to happen.
Hayden's in the credits, man. Hayden is in the credits. We're gonna see him.
Yeah.
Quick thought. You know those rings?
I don't know. That'll be crazy.
You know those hyperspace rings they were flying through? I'm not completely up to speed. Maybe one of y'all can fill me in. But there's a connection to Dathomir. So Morgan Elsbeth is from Dathomir, like she's one of the Night Sisters, and those hyperspace rings are more ancient than the Jedi. They follow the same path as the Purgils, the space whales, and there was an ancient way to travel through hyperspace. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that it seems to be like Dathomirian tech or a Dathomirian tradition or a Dathomirian idea of hyperspace, and even the way the holograms are clearer, their transmissions are clearer. So it's demonstrating like different tech than the Republic or the Empire have been using. And maybe it comes from Dathomir, maybe it comes from that space beyond. Like if it's a hypergate, a hyperspace gate, then maybe the tech was like a blueprint was sent to them by Thrawn. Like who knows? But it's showing something very otherworldly or extra galactic, and it's just adding to the mystery. So those rings are some kind of connection with Dathomir and another galaxy or history, or I don't know. But I like not knowing. I like filling in the gaps.
So I have a conspiracy theory about that.
It is.
Yeah.
So in the Thrawn books that started in 2017, there's Thrawn and there's Thrawn alliances and Thrawn treason. So where Thrawn is from, it's called the Chiss Ascendancy. And when they go into hyperspace, they don't use like a nav computer. They use a Chiss child. They're typically female because they're strong with the Force, and they literally call them Skywalkers. That's what they're called. So I think that this hyperspace ring is like some sort of Chiss tech. And that's why they're going to be able to use Thrawn to get back, because that's how they navigate what's called the Chaos, which is where Thrawn's homeworld is. The books are very fresh to me. That's why I'm thinking this, but I hope that that's where they're going, because there's so much stuff they could go into if they go into not only Thrawn's background, but more of his people, because I don't think that they're just out there waiting to be essentially storylines written about them. So that's kind of where my mind goes with that.
Oh, yeah. The Skywalker.
Interesting. Before we get to the next question, I do want to take a quick commercial break. So we'll be right back after these messages.
How long do you think this break will be? Doing
I
5 minutes?
I think he said 5 minutes. I think he ran to the bathroom.
Might as well use the bathroom.
Oh, maybe not.
All right, and we're back. Sorry about that, guys. Yes, so we are back, and okay, so they go and they hide into this forest, but right before, running into all these Purgles who may not have helped them out a little bit. They were driving through them. Some people got through, some people didn't. I don't know. Maybe the Purgles recognize Sabine because they have a connection with Ezra. Who knows? We don't know that yet. And then they land in this little like red forest, and now the hunt begins. So they're going to go look for them, and we see that Balin is going to go and hunt. And that's where the episode kind of just ends. So what are your thoughts about the ending to this episode? So let's go with Adom.
So, I mean, it's a good way to segue from the first 2 episodes that came out to like what's going to happen next, because as you mentioned, there are only like 2 more scenes in the trailers where I think we see Balin fighting Ahsoka when the map is turned on, and then we also see, I guess, the rematch between Shin and Sabine in the Forest. But we don't have any other footage to come for this. So I'm actually really hoping that, you know, the ring is turned on, they pull Thrawn back right away, and then it's off to the races to find Ezra. That's what I want right away. Like, don't make me wait for it, because, you know, there's so much to be told there, because we haven't seen Ezra since the end. We haven't seen Thrawn since the end of that either. And so I want that, and I want some flashbacks, because these are 2 very important characters at the end of Rebels, and everything about the storyline is about finding both of them. The bad guys are trying to find Thrawn, the good guys are trying to find Ezra, and you know it's all coming to a head. And I will add the fact that Ahsoka and Sabine couldn't get Hera to bring any Republic support, so they're out on their own. That's not going to last very long. And I hope that this involves Zeb, because if you remember in was that Mandalorian where he was hanging out at the where he's part of like Rogue Squadron, like he's got to show up and bring some help. Like that's kind of where my mind went, that because he's the only character from Rebels who was part of the squad that we haven't seen yet, aside from Ezra, obviously. But yeah, so that's where my mind goes. Give me some Zeb.
Mm-hmm. Technically, we've seen Ezra in a hologram, so yeah.
That's true. Yeah, you're right. But no, give me real Ezra and Thrawn. Yeah,
real Ezra. All right, Kareem, what are your thoughts about the way this episode ended?
Yeah, I love that last shot. The way the camera just panned up so slowly on Balin's. I was wondering, it felt like the last shot, but I was just being like, okay, just cut away. Like let's fight. Like I really wanted to see it. So great anticipation building. It was one of the shorter episodes, but it did a lot. And Sabine, like the only other shots we've seen and from the trailers is Ahsoka versus Balin and Sabine versus Hati. And like we've seen, Hati already stabbed Sabine once. Like Sabine lost round 1 pretty swiftly. Hasn't had much training since then. But here's what I'm thinking. Sabine is relying on urgency. She's not really relying on her inner peace to culminate the Force. She's relying on aggression. I mean, so it makes sense. She's Mandalorian.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
So, you know, the Force has 2 sides to it. And in the opening sequence, when they show the helmets, you know, like the Star Wars logo, they just have a bunch of helmets. It's pretty standard. The red are for the evil bad guys and blue are for the good guys. However, Sabine's helmet is red and Merrick's helmet is blue. And who knows? Maybe it means nothing. Maybe we're nitpicking, but people switch sides. So maybe Sabine will use a little bit of anger to use the Force, use the dark side, but still be a good person in relation to this galactic war. So, Dave Filoni's always playing with that. And that's what I think is going to happen. I think she's going to have a little bit of, enhanced activity. Not too much. She's not going to shoot force lightning or anything, but a little bit of something. And it might even be vague. We might wonder, was that just really good fighting skill, or was that an aggression sign of the dark side?
Yeah. No, totally agree. Ruzzy, what were your thoughts about the ending?
Scan complete. No, I thought Huyang waking up after the dogfight and missing literally half of everything was pretty funny. But I think, um, when Sabine said I haven't seen those creatures since Ezra disappeared, obviously everyone's, gears started turning. But Sharp actually brings something in the chat that I do want to kind of pick at, one of the later ones, besides trolling. But essentially, I think so. What I'd like to see, and while I'm absolutely loving kind of the Rebels reunion and almost like the Rebel season 5, I kind of wish this came for season 2 of Ahsoka, and they did. And for season 1, they focused more on Ahsoka as a character herself, or maybe even the first
Mm.
half of the season. I think it gets you straight in. It gets all the nostalgia vibes. It gets all the things that we all kind of want to see, and it's like, in Star Wars fans eat it up and we love it. But I also kind of want to see like more of more of Ahsoka's growth. Like, I mean, she went through a lot of trauma, right? And we're not
Yeah.
unpacking that really at all. And so I want to see like what happened with her. Um, you know, Obviously some flashbacks. But I think that like Rosario Dawson is such a great actress that you cannot activate her full potential in something like this, and I want to see it. So I want to have her like from start to finish in one episode, or actually several. But I also do want to see this story that we've been seeing thus far. And I think we'll see Thrawn earlier than we would think. I don't think it's going to be the final episode. And I forgot about the movie. I think maybe that's where we find Ezra. Maybe it's not this show. But overall, I think it's off to a good start, good foundation. But I want to see where it goes.
Maybe. I think people will be. Yeah, I think people might be a little disappointed if we don't find Ezra in this show, but we'll
That is
see.
true.
I don't know where it'll go, but let's figure it out. I do agree. I do think that there needs to be more Ahsoka in this show because it's just Rebels, and if the show is called Ahsoka, I think people are going to be like, "Well, where's Ahsoka's growth?" But I do
Yeah,
feel like we've seen enough of it in the last season of Clone Wars, where they gave us that one extra season. There was a lot of growth for her in that last season,
hmm
and there's also the Tales of the Jedi that came out, and we got to see what she was doing
it's true.
a little bit after that too. But I totally agree with you. I would love to see a few more flashbacks between her and Sabine and see where all of that stuff went. So totally agree with you there. We're gonna go into some Easter eggs, and then we'll do a few more comments, and then we'll wrap this up. So I wanted to share some fun Easter eggs that we saw in this episode. Let's see. The kendo mask that she wears is very reminiscent of what Kanan wears when he was
Yeah.
training with the Inquisitor, I believe. That was pretty interesting. Uh,
But also
when
the Jedi
Ahsoka,
Temple Knights.
Yeah.
yeah, the Jedi
The,
Simple Knights.
the Jedi
Also,
Temple Knights. Yeah.
when Ahsoka is training with Sabine, and she puts the helmet on her. If you watch it with headphones, the sound actually travels from one ear to the other because when she's standing on the left side, you hear only from your left headphone. And when she's on the right side, you only hear from your right headphones. So it actually feels like Ahsoka is moving in the direction, and you literally can't see where she is because she's out of frame. So it's really, really cool. Watch the episode with headphones. It's super cool. The other thing is we see Jason, and apparently Jason's name is a reference to a Legends book where Han Solo and Leia's son is Jason Solo.
Yeah,
So that's a
Jason
cool little
and Jane.
reference to his name.
Jaina, I
Yeah.
think, is the daughter, right? Yeah.
Twins.
Yeah. And also they mentioned, Hu Young mentioned that not a lot of Mandalorians have been Jedis, but there have been one famous one who is Tar Vizsla, and Sabine is actually related to him, sometime down the line. So that is a little bit of a cool reference. When Sabine is shooting in the in the gun, shooting the gun, she goes, "I got one," which is the reminiscence of Luke saying, "I got one," and Han Solo goes, "Don't get cocky, kid." I thought that was a cool little callback. No, I really, really like it. and then we have the Mortis gods in the Jedi. So they mentioned the Jedi archives, and in the Jedi archive they have the Mortis gods in there. So there may be some reference to that. So that would be really really cool. And the last thing is not an Easter egg. I just really love this quote where she goes, "Anger will give you power, but it will leave you unbalanced." And I'm like, ooh, that's good
Mm,
for real life stuff. That is
mm,
a
Very
solid,
true.
solid advice. I love
mhm.
that. So those are all the Easter eggs that I have. I don't know if you guys found any that I didn't mention. Feel free to mention any of those. Or if not, we will go into the comment and read some of these questions. All right. All right, let's read some of these comments then. I don't know how many of these are trolls. Sheriff seems to be trolling a little bit on here. Uh, let's see.
Oh, it's only
J-
for me. He's
Ahsoka
only
needs
here
a
to troll
few
me.
solo episodes. Yeah, yeah. Let's see. Michael says, I think the relationship between Ahsoka and Sabine is central to how we explore her trauma. That'll be really, really cool. Someone says Sabine is the Robin to Ahsoka's Batman. I thought that's funny. Let's
Which
see.
Robin though? Which one?
I'm gonna say Damien,
I don't
the
know.
killer.
I think I would tend to agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, all right, cool. We got a few more. Reference and all right. I think that I think the rest of the comments were all trolling. So I think that's all we have. Listen, guys, thank you so much for joining this episode. It was so much to get all this info from you guys. You guys are very knowledgeable. I think when Thrawn comes here, we're gonna definitely need to have you guys back because you guys have read all the books and know probably a lot more about Thrawn than I do. Jazz will probably be back then. Jazz has a lot of knowledge about the Thrawn books too, so I'm really excited about that. But before we go, Kareem, let people know where they can find you.
Yes, sir. I'm in Toronto, I'm on Instagram, and my handle Instagram is Kareem's Dreams.
Perfect. Perfect.
There's my New York Comic Con tag where I met you, Neves. Also, just quick plug for Toronto. Rezi, you were saying you wanted some more Ahsoka stories about her emotional state. There's a book called Ahsoka, written by E.K. Johnston, who's from Toronto, and it explores all of that. I know that it's just like more homework to do. It's not a movie. It's not an episode, but it is really rich because there is action, but it's kind of just like a very slow paced mystery. She's literally on the run physically. She's on the run emotionally. She's on the run spiritually, and it really shows us who Ahsoka is when she's alone, when there's no war, and like what she has to
Hmm.
become. Can't even be Ahsoka. She has to change her name. So E.K. Johnston from Toronto. Big ups. All right, cool. That's me.
Cool. Adom, where can people find you?
Yeah. IG and the Twitter app, as we still call it, at HouseCoop. You can find me on there. I'm in Washington, D.C., like Razi is too. And I will just say that I'm happy that the show has been made because this is a beloved character. There was a lot of hate towards her when she first came out, but it's an amazing character arc. And she's my top 3 Star Wars characters are Thrawn, Maul, and Ahsoka in no particular order. I'm so glad that she's finally got her own show and it's in live action. So this is really dope.
Yep. Love it. And Rusty, you were very popular today in the comments, man. Where can people find you? I
They
don't know
can't
if you
find
want to
me.
be
I will
found.
find you. I will find you.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys for being on the show. We really, really appreciate it. And we'll definitely have you guys back on. And until next time, guys, Salaam nerds.
Peace.
All right, guys. Peace.